Hey, Jeff from Become More Compelling here, and welcome to another episode of Compelling Convos. So our topic for today, in the last episode we talked about interrupting. So that got me thinking, well, might be good to do an episode on avoiding what I call the spring-loaded response trap. So if you've ever been in a situation where you're talking to someone and you kind of see the light go out in their eyes and you know that like, okay, it doesn't seem like they're listening to me. And then sure enough, when you stop talking, they jump in with their own sort of spring-loaded response. You know, they thought of it half a minute ago and now they're just saying whatever they were going to say. And it didn't feel like they were really connecting with you or listening to you. Maybe you're guilty of this. I think we've all done this at some point, but we don't want to, just because we've done it in the past doesn't mean we can't improve in the future. The first mindset I want you to think about is topics are like trains. Just let them go by. You're not always obligated to say something about every single thing that comes up. So if you, if you have a topic and you think, oh man, this is a perfect response, don't shut off your listening muscle and just focus on that response, because that takes you out of the moment and it's harder for you to contribute to the conversation. A better play there is to just let that topic go by and realize, hey, topics are like trains. There's always another one coming. There's always another opportunity to respond to something else. And I shouldn't let having that perfect response that I think will be awesome, don't let that get in the way of actually listening to what the person's saying in the moment and taking you out of the current interaction. So I think what happens with the spring-loaded response trap is that when people lock onto that thing, we get this feeling of scarcity. Like, oh, I don't know when I'll be able to contribute again. Maybe another opportunity won't come. This is especially prevalent in group conversations. Now, a better mindset of that is just one of abundance. Like, hey, you know what? There's a lot of potential things I could say. I'm just going to go with the best available thing and let go of the perfect thing. So don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. So what's the best way to respond? Like, say that you have something good to say, you haven't grabbed onto the perfect thing, but it's a good enough thing. So how do we communicate with the other person and let them know that, like, hey, I'm listening to them? So a really good way to do this, two things that we're going to talk about. One is kind of the absorption phase, and I got that from The Charisma Myth by Olivia Fox-Gavain. Excellent book, definitely worth a read. The second thing is kind of a validation response. So the listening absorption phase. Say that you just told me this awesome thing about some topic, and what should my kind of face do when I respond? Well, you say your thing to me. If you're playing along at home, you can go ahead and tell me something now. So I'm taking a moment. I'm not jumping in with that spring-loaded response like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. I was reading this article in the New York Times. Like, no. Instead, I just kind of let it absorb. Like, oh yeah, it might be a subtle head nod. You kind of squint your eyes a little bit. It's just meant to say, hey, you know what? I'm absorbing what you're telling me. Like, I'm just taking 1 second. We're not hanging on for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. We're just letting it absorb and then doing our response. So that's one thing. The second thing is, oh, that's really interesting. I like what you said about XYZ. So what you're doing there is you're validating their response. So that thing that they had an insight on or an opinion on, we don't want to be, we don't want to agree if we don't really agree. So we obviously want to be genuine and authentic here. But if they have a topic and they have a viewpoint, well, it's okay to say, hey, that's a really interesting viewpoint. I've never thought of it that way. And it validates what they've said. And so you're calling out something specific that they've done, that they've stated, and you've said, oh, wow, that's really interesting. Or, I've never thought about it quite like that before. And that really shows the other person, like, hey, this person is engaged and this person's here and listening to me. And that's really powerful, because when we're interacting with other folks, it could be on a Zoom call because we're all in quarantine right now, or it could be when we get out of quarantine and we can actually go places and hang out with people. Like, we want them to feel heard. we want them to feel understood, and we want them to feel validated when they share something with us. It could be a fact that they just read. It could be an opinion that they have. It could be a story from their past that they're sharing with us. So we want to kind of reward that behavior and let them know, like, hey, that was really, really great. That was really thoughtful. That was really insightful. We want to validate that. So your action step, number one, avoid the spring-loaded response trap. And how we do that is by doing the listening absorption face that we just learned, and also validating and saying, that's really interesting. Another thing that we do is we realize that topics are like trains. And so while you might have the perfect thing to say, you don't have to say it. So if that moment's passed in the conversation, it's okay. You can let it pass and just trust that there'll be other opportunities to contribute. Okay, that's our tip for today. If you have a question or a topic that you'd like me to cover in the future on one of these episodes of Compelling Convos, you can @ me on Instagram or Twitter @ @TheJeffCallahan with 2 L's. You can also send me an email at jeff@becomemorecompelling.com, or you can just drop a comment below and I'll cover your topic on a future video. Thanks. Hey, a couple of quick things before you leave. One, I've got a subscribe button over here. If you like this video and you don't want to miss out on a future video, hit that subscribe button. Two, if you like this video, hit the like button. That helps other awesome people like you find it. And three, leave a comment if you have any feedback for me, or if you have a topic or suggestion that you want me to cover in a future video. Thanks.